Last week, I came across a really interesting article in which they talked about using action verbs to supercharge your resume. And I loved it. In today's video, I want to talk about a few things. I want to talk about how you can use action verbs to make your resume much more compelling, how you can do that while also mirroring the job description with your resume, making it seem like you're a great fit. And lastly, how you can take those action verbs and use it in combination with quantifying your impact to make you come off as an amazing candidate. Let's go. One of the things I found interesting about this article is it said that 95% of Fortune 500 companies are using applicant tracking systems. And companies that are smaller than Fortune 500, so still some very large and medium-sized and ultimately small companies, are also starting to adopt applicant tracking systems. Now, applicant tracking systems are the systems when you apply for a company, your resume goes into those databases aligned with a specific job you applied for. And they often give you a percentage match to the role. So when I was a corporate recruiter, you would actually see what the match was between the resume and the job description, and you would use that as part of the data on who you move forward in the process. In this article, they talked about how these rich action verbs can actually help you become more appealing to the applicant tracking system, the recruiter, HR person, and the hiring manager. So let's talk a little bit about those now. Now I'm gonna pull them up on the screen right here. These are a list of action verbs that you can put in your resume, and I'm gonna leave them here for a minute. One of the things that's really important is that you use these to accurately describe things you have done in your role. Now, I'm a big fan of looking at the job description and then taking that, a lot of what's in there, qualifications, responsibilities, impact, and putting that into your resume. Now, it is absolutely key that you're accurate here. You need to be qualified for the role and you need to have done these things. But if, for example, in a job description it says, has at least 5 years experience using Python, which is a coding language, then you want to make sure it says that in your, in your resume. If they talk about implementing a new process or they talk about executing a certain thing, you want to make sure that you mirror what's in the job description in your resume. But using these action verbs could be a really powerful way to tell a compelling story. Now, it is not enough that you take these action verbs and they are just littered through your resume. That's not going to get it done. What you want to do is use these action verbs to talk about specific things they require in the job description that you also have. So you're qualified, you have these competencies, skills, backgrounds, etc. And then you also want to use them to tell the story of your impact. You want to quantify your impact in a way that is financial, that is cost savings, that increases efficiency, whatever you're measured on in your line of work. You want to talk about that, and you want to talk about how you've previously succeeded. And using these action verbs in combination with quantifying your impact in a way that resembles your resume and what you need to do in the job you're applying for is incredibly powerful. I want to give you a few examples now. Now, the first example I'm going to say here is an example you might have if you were in quality engineering, or maybe you're a production supervisor, or you're on a manufacturing floor and you want to talk about an accomplishment. And I'm going to use two different action verbs here. I'm also going to quantify the impact. Now, this is a hypothetical, but this is a really good example of how you might do this. I'm going to put this up on the screen too. But the example is, launched a cost-saving initiative in which we were able to reduce downtime by 15% over a 12-month period, saving the company $250,000 and allowing us to exceed our profitability targets. So that right there, that is a really good example. Now on the screen I highlighted the different action verbs, but what I did there was I specifically put the action verbs in there, which are powerful. I talk about the job. Now ideally there would be something in the job description and your resume, about lean and continuous improvement. And this is a way for you to use those action verbs, quantify your impact, and allow the hiring manager to understand, I achieved a significant cost savings for my prior company. There was revenue implications, etc. So let's go into another one. Now, this might be one if you are in HR, or if you're a chief people officer, or you're an HR generalist. And the example I have is as follows. Supervised the launch of an onboarding and training program which reduced company turnover by 20% over an 18-month period and strengthened our engagement scores prior to the implementation of the program. So there you go again. That's another example in which I use several of these action verbs to tell a compelling story and I quantify the impact. This time, the impact wasn't 250,000, but it was a reduction in turnover, which believe me, has a significant cost saving attached to it. But it's really important when you quantify your impact to talk about what you did, what was the time period, what was the result. So what you did, supervise the launch of an onboarding and training program. What was the impact? It was a 20% reduction in company turnover. What was the timeline? 18 months. And that is how you can go ahead and combine using action verbs, tell a story about what you did and quantify your impact so they can see the actual outcome of the thing you specifically did. Now, if you are applying and not getting interviews, believe me, you are not alone, but I want you to watch this video because I talk specifically in this video things you can do to make sure you get around that ATS and get into the applicant tracking process. Trust me, if you like this video, you are going to love this one because this one's going to help you a ton.